The time being 9 o'clock, let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have to look at the agenda this morning because I think we need to discuss the closing according to statute. We need to talk about it and approve that there was a closing. So we'll have that discussion as number 4.
A closing for what?
For the courthouse, because they were in lockdown, it was closed.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything else that needs to be changed on the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with that addition.
Okay.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Is there a
Presented.
second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Ms. Kruger, you are our first appointment.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
And we have a pretty straightforward agenda. Sheriff's Office, we have Mr. Bruce Shores is coming to the conclusion of his probationary period for jailer dispatcher. We have Chief Deputy Lappin here with us to confirm that he has effectively completed his probationary period, and it's their recommendation to move forward for him to be in non-probationary status, or as we have termed it, regular status. And that would be effective August 12th. Is there any comments you would like to make in addition to that?
We're happy with Bruce's performance, and we're excited to have him.
Do we have a motion to approve that?
I'll make that a motion.
I'll
Is there-
second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Travis, are you going to be around for a little bit still?
I'll be going back to the officer room. I think Luke's coming over.
Okay, because we want to, I'd really like it if you could stay for the closing discussion. Or we could do it when Tessa's done. How would that be?
Well, I'm not really prepared to talk about it quite yet.
Oh, no, I just want you to hear the statute and why we're doing it.
Oh, okay. That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, no, nothing other than that.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
I'm not sure if Ms. Marshall was coming in or not.
She is here in the back.
I'm not sure if you're, in the event there's questions going forward.
Morning.
Good morning.
At this time, I am asking the board to accept the resignation of Human Services Director Linda Barr and thank her for her service to the county. This would be effective August 26th, 2016. You each were she emailed you directly.
Correct.
With regards to
Mhm.
that. So, they're looking-
I'll move to regrettably accept Linda Barr's resignation.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Secondly, with that, we are requesting that at this time that that the board approve a Human Service Director job description classification D62. This was previously emailed to you. Arthur J. Gallagher and Associates did the final review of it. And the classification of that as well, which I have a copy of in the event you are interested in their evaluation. interim director for Human Services, Mary Marshall, and I drafted the job description, updated it. This is something we do each time we have an opening. This job description hadn't been reviewed for a while, so it is in front of you. Since it's a direct report to you for your consideration and our recommendation for approval.
Yeah, we all got copies of it. It looked
Right.
like a
Look
very good description, job description. And
pretty thorough, you know. Complete.
I think we need to go forward with, I'll make a motion to go forward with a search.
Oh, we need to first approve the
Job description?
job description.
I'll make a motion to approve the job description.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And as I said, I bring that forward to the board, since this is a direct report to the board for your approval, just for clarification there. Now we are in a position to ask that the board approve a competitive search beginning immediately for the Director of Human Services. You know, Interim Director Marshall is doing a wonderful job, but she is doing double duty, so we're asking that we are able to go forward immediately.
Are you sure you can't take the stress and just keep on doing it?
I'm happy to do the sprint, and also happy to do the marathon.
Do we have a motion to go forward with the search?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That was a big job for you this morning.
That was a big job.
Thanks for all you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor.
And just real quickly, just two as information items. Mr. Sam Spafford and Ryan Sayer Productions will be here later today to review the jail facilities to make their final determination as to whether it meets their needs. And secondly, just wanted to let you know that the Minnesota Historical Society and Cultural Heritage Program grant was submitted last week. We completed all the updates. We have confirmation from the program there that our information is in, and sometimes during September they will be meeting to review the applications. I plan to, I don't know the date in September yet.
Okay.
I plan on attending. I am hopeful that someone from the Historical Society will also attend with me. I will do a brief presentation. I have and would invite any commissioner to go along with me, and I'm also going to look for the community involvement. Potentially, would like to contact the mayor to check his availability as well. This is a nice opportunity for us. It is fund-wise. Just as a reminder, we're asking for $76,220, and we have a match commitment of $10,000. And that is both for the historic jail for the reuse study, as well as for the architectural drawings, et cetera, for this building, for the roof, the steps, and some of the other repairs that we're looking at here.
Wonderful, thank you.
When is that date? When are you?
She doesn't have a date in
I
So you don't
September.
have the
know.
date yet?
They will
Okay.
contact, what I heard was they will contact us.
Okay.
So that's where I am. But as soon as I know, I'll make sure the board knows.
Will they be putting it on their website or anything when they're doing it?
I imagine they will. I looked
Okay.
yesterday and did not see it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Now, if we could just move to discussion item 4 real quick. Under Minnesota statute 373.052, county offices closing in effect. On this week, the courthouse was in lockdown, which is a closing, and it was an emergency closing. So at this point, we need to retroactively approve the closing. And that's per statute, so we want to make sure, and because it's not like a closing, total closing, but it wasn't available to the public, so we need to retroactively approve that. So do we have a motion?
I'll make that a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion about this? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Just wanted to make sure that you understood what we needed to do. Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have a motion to place the items on file for the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And did we have a meeting on the highway department?
Yes.
Is there anything to report back?
Well, predominantly, the discussion was regarding space on the property site that we now own, and whether or not we can get a building to fit on there, other outbuildings, and material on the space, and it appears that we cannot. We need to be able to accommodate runoff, which could, I think, we're not sure, but could be 1 to 3 acres for water retention and sediment retention. We have to have green space. The City of Caledonia is going to require that we have parking for employees and any other people that might be there, and there just simply isn't enough room at this point. So there needs to be further discussion, I think, in regard to getting additional land. It doesn't take a lot more, but it would be best if we could get additional land before we commit ourselves to a building on that site. You have anything to add?
No, we went through, some of the things that were there as far as sizes for trailers and salt and sand and things like that. I think there's a lot of things that need to be reorganized over there. Stack some things up, organize it nicely, and it'll free up quite a bit of space. We've talked about, possible alternatives. Obviously the fairgrounds, there's room over there if we can work something out there. The green space Steve was talking about, we don't know yet what the requirement would be from the city. So there's still a lot of unknowns going forward. So obviously we're not going to be putting a building up anytime soon, but there's still a lot of things that need to be looked at on that site. Potential to reorganize, redistribute where machinery is going to go, where things are going to be stored, how they're going to be stored, and what the size of those buildings are going to be like. There's a lot of unknowns.
So when are you going to have another meeting?
Brian
Are you
was going to
meeting
email
with
us.
the city
I don't know.
or?
I haven't heard, we haven't discussed.
Yeah, and you're right. That's something too that the city, we'd have
You
to
have to
know
meet
what,
with them.
what would be if any green space is required. What would it be? Those kinds of things that we probably need to know
Mhm.
when looking at layouts. So we'll have to figure that out.
Is there availability of land to purchase? Is that a possibility?
I don't know of any. I don't know if
Next
Steve
to it?
do.
Next to it?
The only thing would be if we could possibly move, talk to the, Schulte family regarding a land exchange,
Mhm.
which would be an ideal situation for the county, in that the 22 acres that we now own is pretty much useless to the county.
Mhm.
However, it could be used, very useful, if it adjoined our highway facility.
Any other discussion on it? Okay. Commissioner reports and comments. Commissioner Tomey?
I had planning and zoning Thursday night. We had long start at 7, we're done at almost 10:30. So got a lot done on a lot of good stuff. Good discussion. I felt like everybody got their questions answered and got a chance to say, everyone had a chance to say if they wanted to or what they wanted. So that'll be coming to our, some of the ordinances, changes will be coming to our desk in a couple of weeks.
I didn't have any meetings. I was on vacation.
Highway Department meeting, which we kind of just discussed. The other one was, we had a department head meeting last week. At that meeting, we discussed further security options and measures throughout the county, or I should say the county buildings. We talked about alarm systems at the Highway Department building as well as the old Meyer Furniture building. It was brought to our attention that there needs to be some upgrades as far as security on those two facilities. We talked about redoing some door locks and obviously updating some of the video systems in this building as well as the other buildings. The cameras are older. It'd be nice to get that updated. So we discussed that quite a bit at length, and there will be coming to the board at some point. Ms. Kruger was going to look into some options as far as costs for security systems and upgraded security. So the rest of the board will probably have that presented to them towards the end of the month whenever those quotes get back and what we're going to do and some of the options. But I think that...
Is this something we'll budget for next year?
It kind of depends on what the quote comes back at. We're looking at, right now, not necessarily going gung-ho and doing gigantic security measures, but some of the more low-hanging fruit things as far as rekeying some of the doors or shatter-resistant glass, plastic stuff over the windows, or different security alarms, things like that. So kind of depends on what the quotes come back at. If it's an exorbitant amount of money, yeah, we'll probably have to budget for it. If it's something that isn't terribly expensive, we would probably find some money somewhere to get it going and phase in part of it. So that discussion will probably be had at length, like I said, probably in the next month or so.
I did have one other thing I needed to bring up. We actually have our joint Board of Health meeting August 23rd in Mabel, and so we need to move that department head meeting till the 30th of August.
Okay. Cheryl, will you notify the department
Yep, I
heads?
can do that.
Thank you very much.
Complete? Okay.
Yep.
For myself, I had the Highway Department meeting also on last Tuesday following the county board meeting. And on Wednesday, I attended the CPR AED class held by the Caledonia Ambulance Service here in town. Good thing to go to. I recommend it for anybody. In case I drop over, I'd like to be saved if I could. And I attended the Planning and Zoning public hearing on Thursday night, 7 o'clock. And as Commissioner Chomey said, it went from 7 until about 10:30 late, but a good meeting. Very good meeting. And last night I had the township officers meeting. Their predominant discussion was in regard to their district meeting, which will be in La Crescent, and some early planning for their annual banquet. And I mentioned to them that we had some of the things that were on our plate, I guess, at this point were budgets, which we haven't really gotten into, and the proposed ordinance amendments that are going to be coming out and that we will be voting on. And that's it for me.
Okay. The only meeting I had last week was the department head, so Justin already reported on that. We need to approve claims, human services, and license center disbursements.
I'll make a motion to approve claims and disbursements.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next discussion item is to do with the Legal County newspaper issue. Mr. Attorney Ott, would you like to address that to us, or?
Well, it was brought to the attention, I don't know, one of the local newspapers had sent a letter to the county board regarding this issue, and it brought a statute to my attention regarding designation of a newspaper for official publications. And what was claimed by that letter, I suppose from the Springboro Herald, was that one of the requirements to be an official newspaper is you have to have an office within the political subdivision, or in this case, in the county. And the Houston County News, which is currently our official newspaper, does not have an office anymore. They had one previously, I believe, in the city of Preston, and they do not have it at this time. But there is a subdivision 6, which gives exception, allows for an exception if you happen to have, I suppose, our permit counties that do not have a newspaper that has an office in their county, and there's an exception. And so, speaking with Ms. Miners about what to do in this matter, I directed her, after some discussion, to send a letter to the Houston County News, providing them with the letter that we received from the Springboro Herald, also the statute, as well as the exceptions, and ask them to provide us provide this to their corporate counsel and some feedback. Specifically, there are a number of things that allows a newspaper not to have an office. But what you'd have to do specifically is that what I was looking for, the publisher of the newspaper needs to furnish a sworn statement verified by a recognized independent circulation auditing agency covering a period of at least 1 year and no earlier than 60 days before the designation of the newspaper, stating that the newspaper circulation is not fewer than 75% of the households within the political subdivision. And I've received nothing back from Houston County News or their council indicating that they are able to meet that requirement. And at this point, I mean, the options for the board are, and you can come up with some of your own, but I don't believe the Houston County News, well, it remains until the board changes it, the official newspaper. The board has several options. One of them would be to submit it for additional bids. My understanding of the previous bids that were submitted, they ended up being a tie. And you could somehow try to break that tie, submit it for additional bids. But at some point, an additional replacement for the Houston County News has to be selected.
So basically what we need to do is open it up for bids again.
It's one of the options that you could have. There are bids submitted that were equal. I suppose you could, flip a coin, draw a card, something, or submit it for bids. One of the reasons that you perhaps would submit it for bids is that maybe you could get a lower bid than what you have. They happen to tie at this point. One of the reasons the Houston County News, I think, was selected is they were significantly less. Ms. Miners, I guess, can address that, but yeah, that's one of the 5 different options, but one of them would certainly jump out and submit for additional bids.
So the main issue with the Houston County News is that they don't have an office in the county, correct?
That's the first thing. And then
I just want to make sure that
they don't have an office in the county, and then there are other ways to deal with that, or that make exceptions for not having an office. I suppose if you submitted it for bids, maybe they would decide to put an office back in the county. I don't know. But you would go through the bidding process and allow them to bid if they would be able to meet the qualification. If the quality decide to meet the qualification, I suppose they could enter a bid again, or an additional newspaper, put somebody else. Suppose we're on the Daily News, if they wanted to open an office in the county, I suppose they could be if they would have met the bidding requirement.
I'd like to see an office in the county personally. We have 2 newspapers now that exist in the county, or let's see, is there a Houston Banner? Is that? We have county newspapers, and I guess I'd be more inclined, just because a small newspaper got swallowed up by a large newspaper, pulled the office, took the jobs away. It kind of disturbs me. I'd like to see our county business persons be able to flourish.
just to clarify, the jobs went with the move. I just didn't want them to look like they
I
took
think we should go
jobs.
out for bids.
I think that's a good idea. Start over, start again.
And how much notice do we need to give for bids?
Sam, would we have to actually bid? Could we just quote it?
I suppose it's, I have to take a look at there's, I think that is probably correct. I think that is correct.
So what's the difference?
If we take bids, we have to advertise for it first, and it's kind of a moot point because we've got so few papers. I would like to see us just send a letter to them and say, we'll take bids at this date, and go from there.
I think that is correct, that you'd have that option.
Okay.
I would defer to Ms. Miners on that one, but I believe you have that option.
That sounds sensible to me.
Do you want to, we can move forward on it, but then would you just double check?
I can do that.
So that we are doing it, the right way, but we can move ahead with that. And are you just going to follow up on when you want to have the, or should we set a date right now for when bids need to be in?
I guess it's up to you. Or I can work out the details if you direct me to.
Would you like Auditor Miners to follow this up and advertise and set the date, because we don't have a meeting next week?
End of the month? Is a thought?
Mm-hmm.
The last meeting of the month?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We need
Okay.
to have
Have
bids back
quotes.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise if we wait maybe 2 weeks, now you're middle of August, then it goes out to the
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep.
So let's put a date on it then. By the August 30th meeting?
Sounds logical.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Oh, wait, I think we need a motion.
Mhm.
Sorry.
I'll make that a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Auditor Miners, would you like to give us any information on the next item for discussion?
The company that we have printer ballots has a new service that they provide. After the elections, of course, people in Minnesota can register to vote at the polling place on election day. And I've looked back, and after a presidential election, we've had between 13 and 1,500 people registering to vote on election day. We have, I believe it's 6 weeks by statute to get all those new registrations processed, and it's a huge amount of work. What the new service is, they can scan them in and basically download it into the SVRS state voter registration system. We currently do the downloading through when people register to vote, like when they renew their license plates or things, or their driver's license, things like that. And it's a really neat system. They get downloaded in. We just go through and review and accept or reject. And it really speeds up the process, streamlines it. And I'd kind of like to try it. By signing the agreement, we're not tied to using it. We can try it. If we don't like it, we don't have to use it. If we want to use it in just certain precincts or, for part of it, we can. But it opens up the door for us to try
Cost?
it. Cost is $1.20 per registration.
Mhm. So you get a lot of.
You get a lot of work done
Different-
in a small
yeah.
amount of time.
Mhm. And you can pick and choose. There may be an area where there is no, or you really don't have a problem with
We could do
voter
that.
registration.
Or could we cap it at a number?
You can do whatever you want.
If we ended up with 3,000 people that were registering to vote, that would mean it would be
3,000.
close to 4,000, right?
Michelle thinks that it will be down a little bit this year because so many people, there are more options for registering to vote nowadays. We've got the online registration, and she's seeing a lot of those coming through. So she thinks that it may be down a bit. I don't think we'll see 3,000.
I would just like to
But-
see it maybe capped at a number,
Yep.
so it's just not a open, where we have a little control over how much
Can
is.
we try it out at the primary and then make a cap for the general election?
We could. I don't anticipate getting very many for the primary.
But we can see how the system works
We can
at
see
least.
And
works.
how many did we register last time?
For the last two presidential election years, I think 2008 was around 1,300, and 2012, I believe, was around 1,500.
What if we cap it at 1,500, and then it has to come back before us if it goes over that?
It's a thought, yeah. I guess I don't want to do it, the whole idea is if we do get a large influx, I
But-
don't want to tie our hands
But
really
right,
either.
but we
The
still
reason-
have so long to do it after the election
Mhm.
too. So if we
Yeah.
cap it, at least we have a little control over the
Mhm.
expenditure. I mean, it might be premature to want to cap it, but we have some pretty significant other expenses coming up too.
Mhm.
Any other feedback, discussion?
So at most, you're thinking it would be $4,000.
That's if
when
we
you
had
get-
3,000.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it would cost that much. I think we may have 1,000 or maybe 1,500, but I'm guessing around 1,000. It may be more than that, and it's really hard to tell. If you capped it at 1,500, we could do that easily.
And like you said, it doesn't have to be done right then, that we can, if we
We
need to
need to
adjust
use
it
it.
later, we can.
Or we don't need to use it at all. Is that
Yeah,
right?
true, that could be too.
I think we'll want to try it and
Right.
see how it
I think
works.
it's good to try
I think
it.
it's going to really speed things up
Yeah.
and make it a much cleaner, quicker process.
Mhm.
I don't know, it's up to the board. I just threw it out for discussion.
There's a lot of staff time involved, and,
Yeah,
just being my short-term involvement in elections, it's chaos.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah, and it's just
Very
dumped on you.
time-consuming.
Yeah, it's not
So it-
count a bunch of votes and
so
send
it
in.
probably is cost effective to do it.
That's kind of what I was getting at. I don't know the amount of staff time it takes to do that,
It takes
but that is a cost.
I mean, it is a huge burden.
Mhm. In addition to already, maintaining our public service
Right.
in that office besides. I guess I'd make a motion that we proceed with that program or service with a cap of 1,500.
Not $1,500 though,
No,
1,500
non-registered registrations.
For the year or for the general?
for the general,
For the general, okay.
right?
Is it the general or is it the primary? And we
No,
take
the
a
Well,
look at-
primary
primary-
won't get very many
Okay.
people.
Primer, I'd like to try it for a
Just
few
to
and
test
see
it.
how it
Okay.
works, if we even like it.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's fine.
Do we have a second to that?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Just to clarify, so 1,500 for the general election, right?
Yes.
Yep.
1,500 new voter registrations, yep.
Right, and then we'll just let them try it at the.
Practice.
Practice
Yep.
run at the
Okay.
primaries.
Yep, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Motion carries. Just a reminder that next week, there's no meeting because it's primary election day. We hope everybody gets out to vote. And we'll be back on the 16th. At this time, it's the first Tuesday of the month, and so we have public comment. If you would like to make a public comment to the board this morning, please raise your hand, be acknowledged, come forward, and state your name and township. And just remember, our main rule is just be respectful. Thank you. Would anyone like to address the board? Please come forward.
Brian Van Gorp, Yucatan Township. I'd like to address the proposed ordinance change. And the issue is when somebody gets a CUP, they're basically entering into a contract with the county. They agree to certain terms and conditions, and the county can't terminate that without violations or cause. But in the proposed change, all enforcement is discretionary. It may have a hearing to decide what to do, because that's after violations have already been defined and agreed upon that there is a violation. You may have a hearing. Well, there's a couple of things wrong with that. First of all, then there's no public record of the violation. And there could go on a second, third, fourth, fifth violation, and they're all swept under the rug. And in fact, that is the track record of this county. So there has to be some teeth in this that force a hearing and a recording for the public record of the violations. Otherwise, you have exactly the situation we've been dealing with. By the county's own admission, they have not enforced the ordinance for over 40 years. Planning and Zoning Commission voted not to enforce the ordinance. And what happens then is a whole lot of frustration by a whole lot of people. And you are already embroiled in a couple of lawsuits for lack of enforcement. And I would think you'd want to bring this to an end. So I'm going to urge you to either change the way that wording goes so that there shall be a hearing, or otherwise vote against that proposed change. Because this has just been an endless source of frustration for me personally for the last 5 years, and other members of this county as well.
Thank you for your
I
comments.
guess my democracy is over.
Is there anyone else who would like to approach the board? I'm sorry if I didn't mention before, it's 2 minutes. Please come forward.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yvonne Crogston. I also attended the hearing last Thursday, and I have a couple of notes, but rather than talk about them because I'm quoting paragraphs, I'm just going to email you my concerns on them. But my biggest concern is in 0110.2705, the interim use permit required. Under number 2, the original amendment said the maximum volume of material mined shall not exceed 10,000 cubic yards per year. So then Mr. Locker was talking with Mr. Bogodzinski, who said sometimes a project needs to go over 10,000. So then they changed it to the volume shall be set by the Planning Commission at the public hearing. I would like to see added to that, not to exceed a maximum of, and I think Mr. Bogodzinski said 30,000 or 35,000. So I would like to see a not to exceed cubic yards in that. That was my main concern. But like I said, I will email you with my other comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to approach the board?
Bruce Kimo, Caledonia. I didn't hear anything about this discussion about the registration. It was a private conversation. You were talking to yourselves. You were not addressing the public. This is a public meeting. I felt absolutely isolated. I asked other people if they could understand what the discussion was about, and some shook their heads. I'm not catching it all. So I don't really know what transpired up there.
I'd be happy to clarify.
Yeah, why don't you?
And part of the importance of us is to discuss things like that because we can't discuss them. We're discussing publicly about it, but we've
Here it's not public.
we've said we were just talking about setting a limit on how many voter registrations can be done automatically, right?
Correct.
And because there's a cost involved, and after that, we'd have to readdress it as a board. Thank you. Anyone else like to comment?
No, just to add to that, so what Judy's saying is, so the voter, so the end deal, if you guys didn't hear, was that we're going to have a cap on the maximum of 1,500 voters during the general election because of cost as far as how that's going to go. But what's going to happen is during the primaries, we're going to kind of get a feel for this, see how it works, and then see what happens in the general election. If for some reason it exceeds 1,500, we can come back to the board and kind of discuss what we want to do for that. So,
can I ask, 2,800 registered voters in a count of 18,000 people, which obviously not all those people are even old enough to vote. 2,800 people have been registered in the last 2 elections?
No,
You
no.
said
The last 2
1,300?
presidential.
Yeah.
Oh, on election day, that's how many people registered at the polling
Why
place.
so many? I don't understand why that number's so high in
People
such a
move.
small county.
People move.
And that's a lot of people.
It is. It's what
And you're
we do.
expecting another 1,000 this election? You mean general election?
And even people that move within the county, though, you know,
Yeah,
because then
they'll
they
have to
change.
re-register.
Seems like a lot for this size, I guess, but.
that's
really
a
not.
question though, Shar. If you moved, say somebody moved from Spring Grove to La Crescent, do they have to re-register because they're in a different district now,
Correct.
right?
If you move across the street, you have to re-register.
Because your address changes.
You're right, okay.
Yeah.
So that's what's counted in
And it's
that.
people who turn 18, people who move into the county.
Sure.
I mean, it's all the comings and goings. People are very mobile nowadays.
I suppose just people turning 18, there's quite a few
Yeah.
kids. Okay.
Is there any other comments to the board?
Well, I have a question, so, about this topic. What happens on election day in November if there's more people registering than this? Does that go to provisional ballot?
No.
No,
You're-
no,
You're totally
no.
misunderstanding.
Okay,
Donna.
okay.
The way this works, everybody can register to vote on election day like they always could. What we're talking about is how we will enter them after the election into the state board registration system. Whether we manually type them all in, which is what we've done in the past, which takes weeks and weeks and weeks to
Okay,
do.
so this is not a provisional ballot?
No.
Oh, not at
no.
all,
So-
not at all.
This is just a processing
Okay.
thing in our office
Yep.
behind the scenes.
So hopefully, to kind of clarify it, everybody will vote. It's just a matter of if we get more than 1,500, Char can come back to us and say, hey, is it okay if I put 2,200 people through the system at this cost?
Or do we manually enter?
Yeah,
Sure.
or we manually
Yeah.
enter it for
The
no
way we
cost.
used
It's not
how
going
it
to
was.
impact
No.
anybody's voting
Okay,
rights.
all right.
Don't
It does
mistake
somewhere
that.
else, other places they do this. And
No.
people have been cheated of the right to vote, so I'm.
We would
Abs-
never
we
do
would
that.
never do that.
No, thanks.
Is there any other comment for the board? Would anyone else like to address the board? There being no further public comment, is there anything else to come before the board? Suggest a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.